This is Canucks Only.
This is Canucks Only.
Here are your hosts, Shylo Smith and Rob Young.
Well, good evening, Shylo. How are you?
Good evening, Rob. I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Good, man. Welcome to another episode of Canucks Only. It's Monday, July 13th. Usually we do this on Sundays, and I completely forgot. In the throes of summer and sitting on the couch and actually working on some tech things for the first time in a long time. Got some energy back and lost track of the day and got my old kiddo back for some summer days with her. But yeah, it's welcome to Canucks Only. We're fans just like you. We're live on X. We're live on YouTube, and also been posting to all the rest of the socials, including that new one, Blue Sky. But on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, where there's a group there. If anyone cares to join the Facebook group, I post there as well, and there's some chat going on. And then Blue Sky, what am I missing? I'm missing one of them, and YouTube, of course, YouTube Shorts. Hey, real quick, just talking about that, I'll switch the order of things we talked about, but getting some pushback or some feedback and interaction on the theory of Bedard offer sheet and a Celebrini offer sheet. So what'd you make of some of that feedback? I mean, it's the whole point of it to spark some discussion, right? So what do you think of what some of the comments coming back were?
Yeah, I mean, there's some valid points there, right? Losing all your picks over the next bunch of years and
4 or 8 years for sure.
Yeah.
It's there's a cost for it for sure.
Yeah, and another guy was talking about 36 million tied up in two players, and I start thinking Edmonton Oilers, right? Like how long they've been out of the, I mean, they're making it there, but they haven't still won anything. And
right
before McDavid, how many first round picks did they have? Right.
Oh man,
and do nothing with it.
Yeah, and it's true, but again, NHL fans are going to have to shift off the number. You and I have been talking about it for about a year because you're like, oh, I wouldn't pay that guy. That was like, it shifted $18 million for a top 12 player in the league, like a top 7 player in the league. If Carlson's making 18 people, I mean, McDavid's making 20 or 22. Like, there's just like, he took a hometown discount to help his team out. So it ain't 18 million. It's going to be $40 million, $20 million. Because right now, 20.5 is the maximum for a player's salary. And that's what Bedard will get because he is a top 3, 4, 5 player in this league. So you got McKinnon, McDavid, Draisaitl. Who am I missing? And then you got, who am I missing forward wise? And then the defenseman, right? Like McCarr's going to make $18 or $19 million. So the number is no longer the issue. It's still always been the percentage. And the pushback on the Leo Carlsson number is that I think it's slightly higher than what Sid signed his the league record breaking contract was 15% of the cap at the time. So it is slightly higher, but with the cap going up and up, it ain't the end of the world as far as that goes. So because teams will have room, and if they want to decide to sign someone for 18 or 19 or 20.5, we talked about it before. Stamkos was not the best player in the league, but he was making as much as the best players in the league, which was Crosby and Malkin at the time. So it's but I'm glad there was some discussion on it because it's there is a cost to it. So.
Yep, definitely. And it's as the one individual said, it's not a guarantee, right? Grabbing these two guys is not a guarantee of anything.
No.
It's interesting how the NHL sort of shifted. I think we've spoken about this before, but how there's that shift from the concept of paying you for what you've done to now paying you for what you might do.
100%. I saw that article. I've seen people talk that concept, and it's something you and I have discussed over the last year and a half or even longer, where you're like, well, he hasn't earned it, but it's the reverse now. You're paying for potential. You're paying for you're running the gamble. So it's 100% what's going to happen to Bouillon. He needs a new contract, and you're going to pay him potentially for what he's not done yet. And everyone's going to have to suck it up or deal with the fact that you're going to have a grumpy player on your hands. You know, if you try and lowball them, you're going to have an Anaheim situation where someone's going to come and say, really? Well, I've got room. You want to offer him 9? I'm going to offer him 11 just because I can. Right.
Yeah. Actually, I think there's something that anyone, like as a fan, I'm usually, I don't play with the numbers so much. You know, I'm not the numbers analytical guy. I've started to dip into some stats and whatnot, and I enjoyed that. But money wise, I don't really look at things too closely.
Yeah.
But one thing I've learned from you is actually about not looking at the dollar amount, but the actual percentage of the budget for that position, that player, that whatever, right? So that line, however you want to look at it. So if you're looking at the actual percentage that you're putting towards it, with the way that the cap is going up, you know, those percentages don't really, they either don't change or they change very minimally,
right,
from what it is right now. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to get to play with the money aspect of things. I'm going to let smarter people than I actually make all the money decisions.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I found that interesting because you're right. You know, it should be looking at the percentage of what you're spending on in your cap with these players, these, you know, the lines, however you want to look at it, instead of just going, well, I don't want to pay Connor Bedard $20 million. Right.
Right.
Yeah, but you know,
it's even more, you know, what's going to be interesting is a Marco Rossi, because he's making 5 at the moment, but really with the cap going up, you know, he's going to go from 5 to probably like 10. He's going to jump significantly, 10 or 11. Like that's the reality of, well, whatever it is, it's going to be a significant jump. And so, but you have to also base it on whoever the highest paid player is. So actually it's actually what the max salary is.
Yeah.
So is he, if you paying McDavid 20.5, if you had to pay him like today at max salary, or Bedard, you're like, oh, he's half of McDavid. Okay. I can kind of live with that as a 2C, right? And PD at the same number. You're like, oh, you've got your 2 centers. You've got 2 B+ centers for 1 McDavid. And as we all know, contrastly from basketball, where you can have 4 all-stars on a team and flirt with being the champion, hockey needs 3 lines. So depth will always overtake the star power, right? So we saw that, we talked about the model of Carolina, Vegas, having the depth teams versus the superstar teams. So McKinnon, Makar, and then McDavid, Draisaitl, and then Bouchard flirting into the conversation of being like super, you know, offensively elite. But they didn't make it, right? Like Vegas handled Colorado, and Colorado, I mean, and Carolina went all the way. So that's the model. Would you rather have quality of depth, or a couple of superstars? And hockey is really tough to win with just a skeleton crew superstar team, as Edmonton has proved the last few seasons, right? To you know, final, and then, you know,
you want depth, and you want depth at a discount. It's really what it is, right? You want to have, like, if we're looking at today's numbers, so not sort of jumping into because I think we're going to see a big change in numbers next season, as all, you know, or as new contracts fade out and old contracts fade out and new contracts come in, we're going to see a massive jump in numbers. But right now, like, it's a good opportunity for those that are competitive.
Yeah.
That if they have, you know, the Marco Rossi's signed, and, you know, unfortunately the Canucks aren't in a position for doing a run. But imagine if they were on, like, you know, the Oilers, where they can add that depth for real cheap cost on basically old money. Yep. For a bit of time. Yeah. I mean, that's for me, it's all about the depth. So we need to have all your, like, the fourth line should be able to take out any other fourth line out there.
Yeah.
And that, you know, because that is, when it comes to the playoffs, how many times have we seen the third, fourth lines come out and just dominate.
Right.
And you're like, holy smokes, those guys won the series or they won that game, or they're the ones that put them into the offensive of, being 3-1 up 3-1 in the series or whatever.
Right.
And if you don't have that depth, you can't get past that. So when your top players are hiccuping, if you don't have anyone, and Edmonton sort of went through this, you don't have anyone else that's scoring. Their second and third line did well for them at points and times, but I just didn't think they were deep enough.
Yeah.
So
of course. And, in deconstructing a Stanley Cup winner, I mean, who was on Carolina's third line? I mean, potentially 2 Conn Smythe candidates, and Taylor Hall and Logan Stankoven. And then, Jackson Blake was also with, leading the second or third leading point getter in the playoffs this year. So it's completely invaluable. So yeah, you're right. And there's going to be, I'd say, starting from right now till about 5 years from now, will there be that, what you just called old money, the old money contracts, because Montreal just loaded up. So whoever took advantage of this, whether they knew enough to do it with foresight or not, good on them. They got ahead of it. They locked up young stars, including Jack Hughes. I think Jack Hughes is only making $8 million. So can you imagine Connor Bedard is going to sign for $20 million, and Jack Hughes is going to be within arm's length of points wise of Bedard, and he's going to be making $8 million for a little while longer. Anyways, there's going to be this really weird competitive window, and it'll be a blip, but once it all evens out, and if they can maintain the salary cap structure, if it keeps going up, it'll be interesting. And these contracts will never come down. But if the revenues go down, then those teams will be in trouble, right? When the cap goes down and they're hurting. Anyways, it's a double-edged sword for sure. But yeah, I think that the Marco Rossi's, and there'll be a couple for us that'll be interesting because he only signed a 3-year deal. Well, we're gonna get hammered by it either way, right? So either he does well and he's performing, or he's only on a 3-year contract and he's 24 and UFA is 27, so he's only going to sign another 3 or 4 year deal. He might give us a 4-year deal if he likes the contract, or he'll sign a 3-year deal if he doesn't like it to get to UFA, right? So
yeah. I was just looking at Jersey, and what they got: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players that are going RFA or UFA next year, and 1 this year. So there's a question for you, right?
What's that?
You got Timo Meier, right? 8.8. Jack Hughes, 8. Brett Jasper, 7.8. Nico Hischier, who's going to be at 11. And now you got all these guys who are going out, and they're going to be getting paid money based on the new budget, based on what everyone else is getting paid out there. And you're going to see a guy like, I don't know, trying to think of Cody Glass, Dawson Mercer. How about him?
Sure.
So you can see Dawson Mercer be at $4 million right now, and you're going to see him jump to what?
9.
So he's going to be making more
than Jack Hughes
and Timo Meier and Nico Hischier. Well, no, sorry, not Nico Hischier. He's going to be at 11, but he's going to be making more than Jack Hughes and Timo Meier. Yeah, like that's going to be wild. There's going to be an interesting little time here when we're going to see players who do not meet the skill level of what other players are making. So yeah,
and Jersey will be interesting because they've got that analytics GM Sonny Maeda. And see what he does with it, because you have a window now. You have an advantage of locking up. Did Jack sign an 8x8? I can't remember.
He's done in 31. So, or sorry, no, he's done in
30.
In 30,
click on his name.
Yeah,
he is 30, in year 5 of 8. Yeah, he did an 8x8.
8x8,
which was like, oh wow, good for you. But that's
shame.
Yeah,
there's 3 years. Really there's funky. 3 years of him losing out on $4-5 million a season.
Like Luke Hughes makes more than Jack. right?
Yeah, we're going to see this disparity, like, in a bunch of
here.
teams.
1, 2, 3. So potentially Jack Hughes is going to make about $21 million a year his next contract.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yep.
And so
crazy.
Luke Hughes would be a good deal if he keeps improving. He's 22. I haven't seen all that Luke Hughes has been cracked up to be.
Yeah, I think he's overpaid, but
yeah,
again, he's a defenseman. And what's my rule for defensemen?
Yeah, 26, 27 before they mature,
exactly.
right? So
this guy's got
22.
4 more years of,
and
if he turns into a talent in 4 years, which he very well might be able to do, then he's signed till 2032. You got him a deal if he's your first pairing defenseman.
Yeah,
and you got him locked in at $9 million.
Yeah, it's interesting with Anaheim too, because they were on track to be like New Jersey, but the rules changed on them. So San Jose and Anaheim are both going to get kind of screwed on this because the salary structure is now whacked and the offer sheets now have made it all whacked. There is a new game afoot. As I said last episode, there's a new game and people will have to, and GMs will have to catch up real quick to find out what that next little loophole is. But I think the immediate fix is shorter contract. Like no one's going to sign an 8-year deal anymore. They're going to sign up until when they know what the cap is with some certainty, and then they'll time their contract. So as I mentioned when talking about this with my brother last year, he says look for NBA style contract, which is 4-year deals. Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, interesting, because I hadn't really tracked that for the NBA, and it seems logical. But if they're also chasing these super teams, you don't want to lock in. You're not going to lock in Brady and Matthew and all the rest of them for like super long mega deals, because you just never know what's going to happen, injuries, etc. So 4-year deal kind of makes more sense. We're going to see so much turnover in the next little while in the NHL that it'll be like having your own EA hockey franchise and you're making trades like crazy. So,
yep, that'll be wild. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to go back to the Celebrini thing. So, with that being said, I think that there are some very slight exceptions that because if Bedard wants to be here and Celebrini wants to be here, you see them signing longer term deals, right? And playing that and going back to the old Kessler and Burroughs days of hometown discounts and hopefully you can enact that. We don't have a huge pool of Vancouver players. We just happen to have 2 of the best players in the league from Vancouver, right? So it's crazy, but so if that's where I was going with that thought is that if you sacrifice those, let's say 8, and the fly in the ointment, as I realized as soon as we finished recording the last episode, was that, but Chicago and San Jose will have last right of matching, so it's not really in the players' hands. So you can make those offers. All you're going to do is make enemies of those franchises for those offer sheets. So you better be pretty darn sure that that's something you choose to do. And since we have, I'll call them the nice guy regime with twins, Twin, and Johnson, I don't see us doing that. And so I think realistically waiting the 5 years till UFA, and then it's open season. Bedard comes the 1 year, and then Celebrini comes the next year. If that's what happens, I mean, then it doesn't cost you anything. So of course, the feedback on the socials, people pushing back and saying, no effing way I would do that. Either you shorten the rebuild by doing it now and you sacrifice part of your future, but also now you're ultra competitive. Your goaltending is pretty solid. Your defense is solid. Your depth is solid. And now you've got 2 superstars. So in some aspects, it makes a ton of sense. And in some ways it makes no sense at all. Right. So it's literally the scales of justice here, balancing one or the other, because both will have their drawbacks. Right. So,
yeah, it's interesting. I personally, I love the whole 3-year, 4-year contracts. I don't think, if I was a GM, I would I would not want to sign anyone for more than that.
Well, now they will want longer ones, but there's no way players will do it.
Yeah, because they're going to see a lot more money in the future, right?
Yeah. Well,
so the GMs are going to want it's almost a sort of a turnaround from what it was. Like all the GMs wanted to lock these guys in for long term. Players are like, yeah, let's do it, and then I'm losing out on a little bit of money, but I think now you're right. They're going to see these increases happening every season. And they're going, hey, the percentage that I'm getting paid out of the cap salary is going down. Right. I was at 6% and now I'm at 4%. So I'm missing out on 2% of this. You know what I mean? The
right. Well, look salary. At Jack Hughes is a perfect example. Potentially, he's leaving probably $10-12 million on the table from losing out on this stuff. There's no way that even at $20 million a year that he can make it up. I don't think so. Because if he was signing now, he'd be up.
Yep.
Anyways, maybe it would. I just, my first gut instinct is that he probably could never recoup that percentage.
Yeah, possibly not. Yeah. It's interesting though.
Hey, so have you discovered that Brett Hull podcast yet? The Ice Guardians? I'm throwing a curveball at you here.
No.
Oh, it's pretty good. It's pretty it's pretty off the cuff because it's Kelly Chase, who is now a cancer survivor. But you remember Kelly Chase and Tony Twist, the fearsome, St. Louis Blues enforcers? Mm-hmm. Anyways, it's them plus Brett Hull. So it's a super entertaining podcast. So they had recently Brian McGrattan on. Do you remember Brian McGrattan, the scary enforcer? Ottawa.
Name rings a bell, but yeah.
Ottawa, Calgary. He moved around a bit. Nashville. Anyways, the thing, I remember him when he played. He was just the face-off brawl with the Canucks and Flames, where Bieksa took the face-off.
Oh yeah, I remember that. And there was a rookie that was about to take the face-off, and Bieksa walked in, tapped him, was like, "You're out, bud."
Yeah, that was that super tall guy, Kellen something, I believe, 6'5" or 6'6". Anyways, Brian McGrattan was like, he was like the new. Well, Bob Probert's probably the wrong comparison, but there was no one else tougher than McGrattan, in my opinion, at the time. 6'5" and just like tough as nails and scary, right? Anyways, I'll send you the podcast. Anyways, a side note was, and I've seen him say it twice on two different podcasts. He goes, there's certain teams that you just freaking hate. He goes, for me, it's the Vancouver Canucks. He goes, I hate those guys. And I'm like, come on. The first time I heard it, but he said it again on the Brett Hull podcast. And then Brett Hull goes, well, you're not the only one. There's quite a few guys that hate the Canucks. And I'm like, man, that era of Kessler and Burroughs really did us in, because you had the ultimate nice guys in the Twins, Shylo, Edler, who else on the nice guy brigade? I guess,
Hamuse.
Yeah. And then yet we're some team hatred or league hatred for us post 2011. Anyways, that I was like just stuck out like a sore thumb. Like, man, come on, really? Because I just hate those guys. Because he's kind of attached himself, even though he's moved around quite a bit, as a Calgary Flame. So that's where he kind of landed last. And but he was there. He was the one that held back Tortorella from going into the dressing room against Bob Hartley. He's the one. He straight armed Tortorella to prevent him from getting in. Oh,
that's right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So, anyways, I was total aside, and I just remember. But their podcast is really good. It's really off the cuff because they're not aiming to be super polished. They're just they're guys just doing stories. It's fantastic. So, anyways, shout out to the Ice Guardians podcast. Let's talk real quick about some Canuck rumors with Petey. What do you make of the Petey to Pittsburgh rumors? What's your take on that? That's been surfacing quite a bit for the last 2 weeks, I would say, even maybe just after the draft. What's your take on Petey and Pittsburgh?
That'd be interesting. It would be a good landing spot for Petey. It'd either be a really good landing spot, because Sidney Crosby does not. You have to actually put effort in, right? He does not. He holds people accountable. And if you're going to go to that team and you're going to like bust your ass and you're going to try to, be something on that team, it might be a great opportunity for him to sort of refresh himself, come back and do well. If he goes there and basically is of the same mentality, we might not see him stay too long.
Right. Yeah. He'd be toast.
The only thing I would worry about in that, to be honest, is I don't want to retain anything. Yeah. And, I don't know offhand where's Pittsburgh sitting with, I guess they got like about 16 million, so they can afford to take him outright, but that they're going to be pushing back. And I don't want to have to pay, like, he still has so much time, I don't want to have to pay, $5 million, $6 million until 2032.
Yeah. No, retaining, and it depends on where, and I guess it depends on who's coming back. So would I retain? Maybe. I mean, if they send the Ruck twins back, like, sure, retain 50%. If they're going to trade
twins are worth that much?
Don't know. I mean, for the Canucks, it would be addition by subtraction with the potential of a disaster, as we all well know. But if you're going to pay for that, then then they have to make it worth our while to retain or take the whole contract, right? Then be it as it may, buyer beware at that point. Because that's really what it is. It is buyer beware for him to. I mean, I guess the first one was Kindle coming back, and then they're just saying there's no flipping way we're sending Ben Kindle to the Canucks for Petey. So, that's the value proposition is dropped, or the value for Petey is dropped a lot. And so, anyways, the Ruck twins are complete unknowns, right? So, and Kindle made the team out of camp last year.
Yeah. I mean, if you're Pittsburgh, are you getting rid of your youth, like any of the guys that are coming up to pick up Petey?
I don't know.
I'd say no.
Don't know.
You might get rid of a couple of guys that you're not totally hot on.
Yeah, because they've lost Kevin Hayes and Anthony Mantha to UFA. So for Petey being the third line center, Sids needs a contract next year. Malkin signed a 1-year deal. Kuzmenko is there. Can you imagine? For Pittsburgh, it actually makes a ton of sense. If they can make the numbers work, then they don't need much else, right? So let's see here. 1, 2, 3. He would be their 14th forward of who's signed right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
he'd also be their longest contracted player.
Well, they signed.
If you take a look, all these guys are done in 2030.
That's true. So someone will have to take him out at the knees, and he'll have to go on LTIR and go back to Sweden if it doesn't work out there. Or it might be we've both said it before. He needs to go somewhere where he can hide. Anonymity wise, I don't think he loves the spotlight. I mean, I don't know if you agree with that, but he doesn't seem to relish that. He just seems to be like that hockey savant that just like, oh, hockey fun, hockey is easy. Yeah. Hockey, good time, right? Like and anything past that, it doesn't seem to. He's not in it for fame and glory. He's just in it for scoring goals, right? And I don't even think he likes doing the social aspect of things. Like I think I think what he would like to do is go to the rink, play hockey, finish, get in his car, go home, live his life, hang with his wife, jumping on Twitch.
Jump on Twitch or, playing some games with his buddies and, do a workout and go back and do it all over again. Yeah. He would probably love to be able to walk down the street and no one recognize him.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Which would be possible in Pittsburgh, I would imagine.
Oh, I think so.
For a third line center, Pittsburgh makes a ton of sense. Like, somewhere where someone's going to hold him to a high standard and where he has an embarrassing amount of talent Now, barring injury, that he is actually physically able to do the things that he used to be able to do, being embarrassed by what Sid doesn't practice, what Malkin doesn't practice, what Erik Karlsson doesn't practice. I mean, there's a sweet connection, right? He's also playing with Letang and Eriksson, and anyways, I don't know. Like it in some ways, it makes a lot of sense. So what
comes back? What comes back? I mean, or are we don't want anything? Like future considerations.
Well, if nothing
take
comes
the whole
back,
contract,
then,
future considerations.
Yep, sure. A 3rd round draft pick. Take the whole thing.
Wow.
I mean,
I know, but it's a sad state that you're losing Pettersson.
You'd probably get a second for him. Like, I think you probably get a second in like 2 years from now.
Second round pick.
Yeah.
All right. Like it baffles me. Like he has fallen so far, unfortunately. And it's like, I'm always picturing like he's going to go to another team and he's just going to, all of a sudden he'll turn it, he'll find that connection. He'll turn it on. He'll find, something that he just loves about it. And all of a sudden he's going to be a 100-point guy every season from that point forward.
Yeah.
And we get a bag of pucks for him. So here's what it is.
I'm just looking at possible destinations.
Buffalo who can afford them?
Yeah, who can afford them? Buffalo has $5 million in cap space. Carolina now only has $9 million in cap space. Colorado has no cap space. I'm looking where he can hide.
What
Dallas,
about Columbus? What about Columbus?
Maybe. Let me check that. Dallas has $10 million in cap space. Columbus has $23 million. Now, let's look at their depth chart.
I mean, he could hide there. Dallas. Columbus.
He either bumps Coyle or Charlie Coyle is their number 2 center. So he probably goes to number 2 center there. And then you got Monahan.
You think he's better than Coyle?
Not at the moment. I think Coyle is more consistent, but I mean, Petey's basement is Coyle's ceiling, right? Coyle's also 34.
34. Yeah.
He just signed a 6-year deal. Holy crap. 6x6 for Charlie Coyle. I just saw that and coughed at the same time. Sorry about that.
He's going to, he'll be playing till he's 40.
That's crazy. And Werenski's there, Provorov.
Now here's the thing. What if Connor Garland was the cancer in the Canucks room? Is he turning around going, actually, I don't want to go to CPJ?
Maybe. I mean, but if I believe Bonus is coming back, right? Rick Bonus is the coach. I think that Bonus would have a good handle on that. I think he would just
nip that in the bud.
Well, I think so? with how he went on his tirade at the end of the season, and if Connor Garland was one of those culprits, which potentially he could be, maybe. So, Detroit right now has $19 million in cap space, and if Larkin goes,
that's wide open.
That's an 8.7 more, so that would be 27 million free, and they would need to replace a center. So Detroit's a possibility. Florida, no. LA is still a possibility, but hey, that we can talk about that rumor in a second. But sounds like LA may be angling for bigger fish. Minnesota, no. Montreal has 13 million cap space. Wow.
I mean, they could.
So they could take them straight up. So let's look at their depth chart. So Montreal makes a ton of space. It just can't.
Does he really want to play in Montreal? You're not hiding
who knows?
in Montreal.
I think we know so little about Pettersson at this point. Like there's so little definitive things you can say he's a yes or no on that I just don't know. I have no read on if he would go to Montreal. But Suzuki, then Evans, Danault, then Kapanen. So he slots in as a number 2, number 3 immediately there. Like he helps them immediately, because if you actually put Danault as your second line center, and you put Kapanen to wing, Montreal could make sense there. Nashville, forget it. They're rebuilding. I don't think so. Let's see. And they got
Chicago's got way too many centers.
Yeah, Chicago. Chicago, 29 million in cap space.
Yeah, but they got like 6 centers.
Well, they have 29 million in cap space, but they have to sign Bedard.
Yep, we got to sign Bedard.
They have to sign Bedard immediately. So they have 9 million
immediately.
in cap space.
And then next year they have like 4 UFAs and 3 RFAs that they have to sign.
Yeah, but they only have 1 Bedard to sign. So that's the 20 million. So just take 20 million out of every number you see. So 46 million next year.
Yep.
So it could work in Chicago if you wanted to go there. New Jersey, New Jersey might be in a bit of trouble, but they only have 7 million in cap space. Rangers, no. Ottawa, no. 4 million in cap space. Philadelphia, no. That's Rick Tocchet land.
How about Toronto? Check out their cap space.
Well, they covet him in Toronto. Oh yeah, minus 2.7 million. They have no cap space. Tampa Bay has 3 in cap space. St. Louis, 11 million. I don't think St. Louis makes sense. Just a bit of a hunch.
Yeah.
But depth wise, he would fit in because Robert Thomas, Mason McTavish, then Dvorsky, and then Pius Suter. He fits in very well, and I didn't see the cap space. Let's go back. 11 million. St. Louis makes sense. It could work. Utah is 4 million. Nope. Vegas minus 8.6 million in cap space.
Wow.
Does that count? Petrangelo's on there, I believe. Let's see. He's not. Yeah, so they're actually okay. They haven't removed Petrangelo's 8.8, so they were actually right at the cap. Washington, nope. They got $75,000 in cap space. In Winnipeg, 10 million. No, Winnipeg could be interesting. Scheifele, Bjork, Dave Lowry, and yeah, he makes sense in Winnipeg. There's no doubt about it. They've got Bjork making the team at 18 years old. So there's a handful of destinations. Pittsburgh makes a lot of sense because he can hide, and he has the example of Sid and Malkin and Erik Karlsson to kind of show him up a little bit. Strong leadership. Anyways, that's and who comes back? It just depends, right? They want to give us somebody, but they want us to retain. Just the price goes up, obviously. So, and then we need to replace them, right? Then we're I don't know. Are we worse? Are we worse without PD? I'd say we're almost the same, really. Because when
we're the same with him being the same output that he's doing. So if he doesn't change, then it doesn't matter if he's there or not because he's not impacting anything.
Yeah, he's not being
if we're back into 2019 PD, then different talk, right? I was just going through all the signings and like past 40 signings are all under 5 years.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think we're going to see that sort of thing continuing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Anyway. Yeah. I don't know. To be honest, I think he does need to go somewhere. I think that he's not going to be able to continue in Vancouver unless something drastically changes, and that's either who knows what that is, and that has to be centered around his production. And that's what has to drastically change. Yeah. But how we get to that, like what needs to change, if it's his mental, if it's his health, if it's whatever, he needs to get back to that level of production. Yeah. Because even with the cap going up and his percentage of the cap, dropping, you still don't want someone who's not putting in the effort. Right.
Right.
And if that's what it is, if that's the factual thing about, PD's just not giving that level of commitment, not putting in that, what the players would expect, what the coaching staff would expect for a level of determination and input to his skill, it starts to jade people, and that's where you get people like very passionate players like Miller, like Connor Garland, right? Perhaps they just get to the wit's end and become cancerous because of they're like, hey, we you just get so fed up with not seeing someone actually do something, especially when you see the potential and they're just not giving it. And I'm not saying he's not giving it, but I'm just like, as you said, there's so much unknown about him. He's never really embraced the fan base, the media, and power to him. Like, you want to keep everything close to chest type thing. That's your prerogative, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's a shame, because if fans want to embrace players, they want to
attach themselves to them. They want to be.
Yeah. They even if they're going through absolute garbage, they want to be able to be with that player, right? And true fans love going through thick and thin with players, right? When you love a player and they drop down and you're still just, believe me, I know, you're still just like trying to find the positive over and over and over again, right?
Yeah.
And it becomes a little bit harder when you don't give back to the fan base. So
you don't endear yourself, right? That's why we love the Smeals. That's why we love the Lindens. We love, the heart and soul players.
Mm-hmm.
West Coast. I was thinking about that in a sort of a Canucks perspective, comprehensive history. Been like ruminating through my mind and how I would write that essay and make a long form thing for Canucks Quest is why we love the Smeals. And I think because we're, for being at the time growing up, the Vancouver was a blue collar town. We've become more of a tech town, but we were blue collar, it was represented in who they put into power in politics. They wanted, NDP has been strong, and you can debate that all you want, but it was reflected in our hockey players, and Louis Pasaglia, all the local guys, Bobby Lenarduzzi, the guys you could have personality and like, oh, local boy does good. And even though that Smeal is from Alberta and Linden's from Alberta, they embraced the city. They showed that heart and character and determination, and we want the way that the evolution of this franchise has been. We want our hockey heroes in Canucks uniforms to be the hardest working guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we love the Burrows, and the ones that give all the extra efforts and the big hits, and it's not about flash and dash, right? So, because you look how long it took for the city to embrace the Sedins, and they had to reach elite level status for the city to like, oh, I guess they're pretty good, where, real hockey fans like, oh, wow, that's kind of special. That's kind of special. When even when they were floundering in their first year under Crawford there. So, yeah.
Anyway, so if he goes to Pittsburgh for a bag of pucks, then I hope it's the best move for him.
Yeah. So if he stays, who you playing him with? What's the line? Who's Pettersson playing with?
Remember, I already talked about this. I'm tossing him in the press box. Well, I mean, It depends. If he's putting in the effort, if he's doing, what needs to be done, and it's just, he's breaking off the rust, if you will, and he's working hard and he's trying to do the right things, then yeah, I'll probably, put him out there. I don't know where I would put him, to be honest. I mean, if you look at the lineup, he's your number one center, right? To be honest. You might give Marco Rossi that opportunity, but is he a number one C? No. Is Hedl back, and do you want to use him? But then that's a tough assignment for Hedl, because number one C is going to take a lot of shit, right? Like, I would almost rather hide Hedl in like the third line and go, be quiet, play your game, but keep your head up, and you're not going to get too smashed. So so he's probably on the first line.
You keeping him with I don't even know who he had chemistry with last year, to be honest.
No one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would, for me personally, I'd like to see Ogren get some first line action.
Okay.
Just because I want him to be exposed to that, and I want to see how he handles that. Like right now, like I've said this before. These next 2 years, just like last year, they're a write-off, right? Not a write-off, let's say, but they are an opportunity to see what you got and to put guys through some lessons without going, oh well, that might cost us the game if we do that. Well,
right.
So what? Right.
Yeah.
Well, if we stick Ogren on the first line and he craps the bed and for 3-4 games, well, then what? Well,
yeah.
Then you learned something, or hopefully he learned something, right?
Yeah. Learn, please. That's all really the goal is at that point.
Yeah. So let's get those guys up there. That's why I'm okay with even sticking Marco Rossi as the number 1C. I don't think he is a number 1C, but let's throw him in there. Put him face to face with Sid the Kid on a face-off and go, let's see what you got, kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I say Sid the Kid. He's not a kid anymore, but but yeah, so I mean, that's sort of where I would be looking at it. Yeah. And if he's not pulling his weight, if he's still sort of just, and again, I'm not saying that this is factual, but there are, there's enough whispers that there's got to be something behind it. But if he's not putting in the effort, if he's not doing what he needs to be doing, physically, mentally, in preparation, whatever, I would have no problem making him my healthy scratch and getting like Atu Ratu on the second line center and bumping Marco Rossi up.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, it would just be a great opportunity for them and go from there.
Yep. I forgot about that. I love that, the entertainment value of that in many aspects.
People are going to think I'm insane.
No.
Healthy scratch and Pettersson.
Nah.
Throw him in the press box.
So actually, go back to something you were talking about earlier, and what's really frustrating is when you're on a team is that when your best player is not doing their part, and he's still getting it's different when they're injured because everyone else can rally in the depth and try harder, and it's for a short time. He'll be back at some point, and when he comes back, all this hard work that we're doing right now to get a win or grind these things out, it's going to pay off because we're better for it. Because when our best player comes back, we're going to be that much better. But it makes no difference at this point. He is like such low impact on a game, especially in the positive margin versus the negative ledger side of things. That it makes no difference. And so the morale aspect of it is what you were talking about earlier, and you just reminded me of that. Is like, oh, okay, well, Petey's out there. We'll see what happens. It's actually demoralizing when your best player is not contributing up to their full potential, when you know that they're capable of so much more. Now, mental, physical, whatever is limiting him at the moment, it doesn't really matter at that point. Is that the sum part of it is that you're collectively worse with your best player in when they're not contributing, right? Because you're always hoping it's like, oh, did good. Because everyone else is kind of filling in their projected ice times that they're to be expected. And it's hard to win a game like the NHL caliber when you've got Ovi still chipping in, 20, 30, 40 goals as a in the last
60-year-old
as the last stage of his career, and because he's contributing. And like Petey got what 54 points or whatever it was last year, and that's just not good enough, right? So 51 points. So yeah, there's a demoralizing aspect to it, but I've heard the chitter chatter that people are hoping to maybe see Linus Karlsson with him. Linus Karlsson Ogren line with Petey, get the speed going and the creativity. Maybe, who knows? But it's a crapshoot at that point. So we'll see. Hey, have you seen anything on these articles? And I did make mention before we recorded, but the headline of Patrick Johnson from the Province Sports talking on Sakaris and Price today is again reaffirming that the Aquilinis are running a tight ship, that the Canucks are actually on a budget. Now, I understand the concept of a budget because Brian Burke years ago says before the salary cap came in, he was asked about the salary cap. He goes, because I've had a salary cap every year I've run the league. It's called a budget. I get told by the owner how much I'm allowed to spend, and I spend it, and I don't spend any more. But this is different, where if you look, we have all rookie coaches. We have rookie presidents. We have rookie GM who I would guarantee are not making anywhere a competitive salary to what other GMs are making. I bet you they're all on bottom level, entry level deals, and you say we'll pay you in the future type deal. Because that's also pretty well established why we did not get Evan Gold out of Boston, because it probably would have cost about $10 million in severances. And so I'm just curious.
And then the cost of hiring all the guys that, all the newer guys, they wouldn't have come cheap, right?
Right. And so I've been like Googling a little bit about what we can find out about any money news about the Aquilinis, but this is just not going away. This is now like week 3 of like, oh no, since RJ got hired, that, we're on bargain basement. We're shopping at Dollarama apparently for what we need. And I think that this lawsuit with, the internal family lawsuit is really, I think, stretching it thin. And the only thing I really have to say about it is that, man, we certainly deserve better. To have how can you run a pro sports franchise and like try not to spend any money though? That's your mandate. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? I mean, I don't know if it's true, but it seems that where there's smoke, there's fire. But just the rumors and then the concept of us like. It sounds like the Twins and RJ are being handcuffed budget wise.
So I just asked 2 different AIs if the Canucks ownership is based on all the noise out there and everything, if Canucks ownership have some sort of limiting on spending. And I used Google's AI. I actually did it on 3. I forgot to check Gronk. Or Grok or whatever it's called, and then
I like Gronk. So does Gronkowski.
And then the new one that you got me on,
Claude.
And so all 3 are said yes. They basically said, Google says, yep, Canucks are operating under strict internal budgeting constraints. How it knows that, I don't know. But it does basically give some all the points that you just pointed out, right? All the less experienced coaching staff, all of the other little cuts that they're making, or that they're trying to save money. The fact that beer costs $30 for a beer,
damn well near,
and $25 a beer, man.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous. You know what? I was looking at seasons tickets because remember we were talking about, hey, let's we'll look at what seasons tickets are. So I was looking at seasons tickets and I was looking, okay, lower bowl, something not too fancy. And it was like something like, I think the seats that I was happy with were, I think it was more than that. They're like $11,000 per seat.
Yeah.
And then I went to like the cheaper ones and I was like, okay, so let's go to the non-drinking. So, the little alcohol-free zone way up in the bleeds there. Yeah. And that was like $6,000 per seat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I thought there's supposed to be a discount when you get seasons tickets. So anyway,
no, you just pay the regular price times 44 games. You got to pay for the preseason and the rest of the games.
So yeah, I mean, the only way that I would accept, and this is where like I wish they would give us a little something. The only way that I would accept that, they're like, hey, yeah, we are trying to limit our budget. We don't want to spend millions because we're actually buying a chunk of land in downtown that, the that one little area over there, we're going to buy that and we're going to build our practice facility there. And so what we're trying to do is save some money and use that money to get this done. And then, after 3 years, everyone will be in a position for raises. We'll loosen up because we'll have our practice facility built. But that's not the case, is it?
Well, that's why I think the Bedard Celebrini angle is a little bit of gold, because then they could charge whatever they wanted. And we've got our 2 hometown grown superstars, but that's not going to happen.
I don't know.
So yeah.
I know that they would like to play for Vancouver under this ownership, under their current structure. Is that something that they would be like, yeah, you know what? I can go there now. Or
yeah,
would it be more like,
I don't know.
You know what? I think I'll wait. I'd love to go to Vancouver, but I might wait to see what they actually do, because they don't even have a practice facility.
Right. So yeah, I think if I was a player with my chance to come home, I'm not sure ownership is the top of my list, but yeah, I'm sure it's a consideration. I'm not sure. For me, I don't think it would be as heavily weighted. Like, I don't want to play for those owners. They just want to play hockey and they want to play in front of their hometown fans, I would imagine. So yeah, I'm a little is remiss the right word? I'm not sure. I'm a little disappointed if that's the actual case, but I know that there's still that internal battle, buying people out internally. And then just the comment from a couple of months ago where that, they're not, I tell you what, if they got offer sheeted on one of their players, they'd be screwed, because they don't have $20 million sitting there in an account they can write a check for. They would have to liquidate immediately for it. So that is also another angle. So Bouillon would be part of it. And that is actually an interesting point. And just thinking about it and saying it out loud, if Bouillon gets offer sheeted and for something more than they're willing to pay, they probably say, okay, bye-bye. We can't afford it. We can't afford the Leo Carlson bonus structure contract, because he has to get a check every year for about $18 million at the beginning of the season. And then he gets paid $850K for the rest of the year. So it's also a little bit of an FU to Pat Verbeek and how he's running his financial ship there, but really it impacts the owners more than anything at that point. But yeah, I think if we got offer sheet, I think they would let the player walk. They would have no choice, especially if it was front loaded like that.
Yeah. I mean, I just opened it up right now. Offer sheet eligibility.
It's Bouillon next year, I believe.
I'm just taking a look. Yeah, it looks like he's going to be eligible.
Yeah. So they got to get him signed this year. As soon as he's eligible for
offer sheet has to be over 11.9 million. And 4 first-round picks starting in 2027. Yeah. So that's, if someone offer sheets them, that's what they need to give up. Or, oh wait, here's another one. Here's what's available: 4.7 to 7.1, and they would have to give up a first-round pick in 2027 and a third-round pick in 2027.
Yeah.
If it's below 1.5. So that's just the offer sheet. I've never really played or looked at offer sheets before.
Well,
because it's such a rare thing anyway.
Yeah, it hasn't been a very common thing, but then I got reminded by someone's post that Joe Sakic signed an offer sheet with the Rangers back in the day. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
He signed an offer sheet for $15 million. So he got paid $15 million, but he can't, Colorado matched it, obviously, because he never played for the Rangers, but the Rangers offer sheeted him back in the day. So when I was re-editing, when I was editing the episode, I was saying, you don't see it, and Connor Bedard is probably the most, high-end player we've seen. I mean, argument can be made that Joe Sakic might have been a higher caliber player, but Bedard is one of the top players in the league at the moment. So maybe it's similar, but he got signed. I think he got a check for $15 million and then signed for whatever the regular salary was after that. So,
is anyone? I'm trying to think. I can't even think of anyone who's
past that.
Well, who signed an offer sheet. I just asked Google or AI to tell me. Sebastian Oho.
Yeah, Montreal signed it, right? Offered him there.
There was matched though.
Yeah.
I'm not good with the
Kotkaniemi?
names. Kotkaniemi
Yeah.
was not matched. And
Yeah, they
Carolina
took him,
sent first and third. So that
and
was
now they can't.
real
Now
recent.
they can't get rid of him.
And now they can't get rid of him. Philip Broberg.
So Shea Weber was an offer sheet.
It was
apparently.
not matched.
Okay.
Broberg was not matched, and St. Louis sent a second round pick for him.
Yeah.
Dylan Holloway was not matched, and St. Louis sent a third round pick for him.
Yeah.
Those are both from Edmonton. Why you want to pick from Edmonton? And then
Philadelphia. Wow.
And then Leo Carlson.
Yeah. So I just Googled the famous offer sheets, and it said Hockey News has an article of the 5 craziest offer sheets in NHL history. Number 5 is Shea Weber. Philadelphia signed him for a 14-year, $110 million deal in 2012. It had a $68 million signing bonus.
Wow.
In 2012.
That's insane.
So Nashville matched it, right? And but the Flyers have this history of this. The next one is Chris Gratton. So let's see here. Yeah, he signed. The Flyers did their offer sheet. The Flyers have a history of this. Chris Gratton, $16.5 million deal. Next one is the Vancouver offer sheet to Davis Backes. So that for a 3-year, $7.5 million deal that was answered by St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was Dustin Penner is the next one from Edmonton and Anaheim. So Anaheim involved again. And then Scott Stevens. So the interesting thing about the Scott Stevens offer sheet is that in hindsight, so where was he? He was with the Capitals, he was with the Blues, and the Devils did the offer sheet, right? So let's see here. Oh no, the Blues inked Stevens to a 4-year, $5.1 offer sheet when he was with Capitals. So in hindsight, the GM of the Post in the Leo Carlson news said that he regrets taking the 4 first rounders. He says he should have kept the player.
Yeah.
So interesting.
I'm just reading up on the Brian Burke, Kevin Lowe, Dustin Penner thing. that was like, it led to much more than
there was rumors of that Burke was gonna fist fight him in a barn, and he was gonna sell tickets.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's nuts. It's awesome, fantastic.
Yeah. Oh,
but where's the? Here, I'm gonna find the Joe Sakic offer sheet. Find it.
I have it here. Joe Sakic, Rangers just lost Mark Messier to Vancouver. Tried to poach Sakic from Colorado with a 3-year, $21 million front-loaded with $15 million signing bonus and just $2 million in annual salary. Yep. Structured that way specifically because Colorado's arena revenue was low and the front office bet the Avs couldn't scrape the cash together. Colorado matched anyway and kept Sakic for the rest of his Hall of Fame career. I
just read the note here in the article that reminded me. I saw there was a very interesting angle to how Colorado could match because they didn't have the money for it, but they were owned by Comsat. So if I say Harrison Ford movie where he's the president, do you remember the movie?
The President, Air Force One.
That movie was so successful and was owned by the same production company was owned by Comsat. They used the profits of that movie to be able to sign Joe Sakic. I saw that on TV. It's like, that's an incredible piece of trivia. And it's just in the article I found on NHL.com. So Harrison Ford is indirectly responsible of keeping
Joe Sakic
in keeping him a Colorado Avalanche. Isn't that something?
That is awesome.
Okay, well, let's talk on the next thing we sort of chatted about. There are a lot of Shane Wright rumors attached to Vancouver. What's your thoughts on Shane Wright? My only feedback on this is like when that came up I'd say 2 weeks ago, in and around the draft. I did a little digging, and there was more than one source, and it wasn't team sources, but it was like more reporters. And I actually asked the one reporter on X, and I said, well, what's the issue? And they just, I can't remember the answer off the top of my head. I don't want to make it up. I'll look for it while you respond. But apparently the Seattle insiders, the reporters and people around the team are really done with Shane Wright. They don't want anything to do with him. And I pointed out to you the evil glare that he gave, I guess, the Montreal table for picking Slafkovsky first in that draft when he was projected to go first overall. He tried to like, the inference was like, I'll show you guys. You made a mistake. And he's just like sputtered ever since. So what's your take on Shane Wright being attached to Vancouver in rumors?
I think we already have enough drama. I don't think we need to add to it, to be
100%.
honest. If you look at he's not like, what is he? He's like a quarter of a point per game type of player right now.
Yeah.
So he's not adding anything. And do you want someone with that sort of a mentality, influencing your youth as it is? So, I mean, he doesn't bring anything. He's a center, and we really, I'm happy with what we got for centers right now. I don't really see a need to fill that position currently. He doesn't provide anything. 74 games, 27 points. We got enough guys that are like that. So
yeah, totally.
So between, and when's his contract up? Next year? And then
he's
we
still
got
on ELC, right? So yeah.
And then we'd have to deal with the whole RFA next year for the whole mentality of paying for what you might get.
Yeah.
And he's also going to be in that spot where the percentages of pay, it'll look like he's getting overpaid.
Yeah.
Right. You might be like, yeah, but he's only at 3% of the cap or whatever. He's at 2% of the cap.
Yeah.
But when you compare him to everyone else, you'd be sitting there going, yeah, but he's the fourth most expensive player on the team.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy.
And he shouldn't be.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't see it fitting anything that the Canucks need.
No, we need positivity. We don't need another emotional boat anchor to drag this room down. Like, we need all super positive, super people on the upswing, not on the downtrend. Right. So that's crazy.
Yeah. And that's why I'm glad, like, we did things like Brendan Gallagher and bringing back Luke Shen.
Yeah.
And, like, and Jamie I can't do the last name. Alexiak. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bringing back, or not back, but bringing those guys in, I think is going to be good for the room.
Yeah.
And do you want to counterbalance that with someone like Shane Wright, who brings nothing point wise or skill wise?
If they bring him in, they know something that we don't, like the inside track. Honestly, it's going to be the first, gamble, the first black mark on this new regime, right? If it doesn't go well, like, unless they pull a Jim Rutherford and just like bring him in, try him out, and get him out in the same year, kind of like they did for Daniel Sprong and for there's one other player they got rid of real fast, Beauvillier, I think, too, right? But anyways, it's crazy. Yeah. So I don't understand it. And just before we started recording, I was mentioning that Lekramaki's name was been attached, or Willander. I'm like, no chance would you trade Tom Willander for Shane Wright. I wouldn't even trade Lekramaki. I'd rather roll the dice on him being a homegrown prospect, right? So, that's just, I think it's a horrible call. I don't know who really wants this, and I don't think we should want this. But anyways, I've been wrong before.
That's They'll give us something to complain about.
Oh my God. Do we need more things to complain about? You know, my one Canucks Quest episode is like, this is the meanest season in the history of our franchise. So it's like, oh, it ended up being the worst season of our franchise. But yeah, we don't need more negativity. We need just let's go. Let's turn this around, right? So
yeah,
I'm trying to find the tweet from this Seattle reporter, but he's like, nope, we're all done with Shane Wright. Now that stinks of an attitude problem. It stinks of something, but we don't need that here. That's just this is the last thing we need. You know, it occurred to me, I haven't heard the name Jim Rutherford in a while, and it's like he is quietly slipped into the background. And what's your thoughts on old GMJR? Really the president, but for all intents and purposes, I feel bad for Alvin because I don't know if we actually know what Alvin was made of, because I think Rutherford was at the helm the whole time.
Yep. Whatever. I don't really. He's not here anymore. Don't care.
Yeah. Well, he is. He stepped into a senior advisor role. That's kind of my point. Where he's still here. He's still getting a paycheck. So he can be in. Well, yeah. I don't know. As long as he's not like, that's the problem. Like, as long as he's not dipping into like, hey, you need to be doing this, or like if he's controlling what's going on. And I don't think I could see the Twins allowing that to happen, but they're also new enough that they might be considering his advice. I don't know. Yep. He's there if they have a question. I think this is clearly the Twins and RJ are steering the boat, and I think Rutherford is in the back sipping a beverage, and there if they need him, and that's really what my take is on it. So I'm just trying to find this tweet still about the Shane Wright, but yeah, I just occurred to me is like, for having so much GMJR, there's been nothing, which has been kind of refreshing. I can't say I like or dislike Jim Rutherford because I'm still don't know what his stamp on this team is. I think he's batting 50%, like 50% good, 50% bad. And that's okay. Right. That's fine. Where it is what it is, in the immortal words of Todd Bertuzzi, as I say often, really the mishandling of the whole EP, Miller saga, and Quinn Hughes as captain and doing nothing, and then losing Quinn Hughes. It's just too much. It's just too much to have to deal with. And so, yes, forget about the Shane Wright. Forget about any negativity. That's only like bringing the positive characters who potentially are going to bring us up. And so the legacy of Jim Rutherford at that point is like, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know.
So he's an alternate governor. What's that mean?
He goes to the board meetings.
That's it.
So the governor, whoever's the appointed governor, when the NHL has their GM meetings, but it's like any corporation.
So he's entity. Just a backup, basically. Yeah. And if one of the Twins can't make it, he goes. Well,
he was the governor. He would have been the one going, and they can appoint, I think, whoever they want. But it's really you're just the board member. So
okay.
You know, a couple of this tackle some NHL rumors. I just saw online that the Kings are poising to make an offer at some point when they can to either Matthews or McDavid. So I think that's why they're being quiet. That's the article. That's that article. You had found something about Hellebuck. Where was Hellebuck rumored to go?
Oh yeah, sorry, Buffalo Sabres. Duh. I remember.
Yeah, okay.
I remember it now. Now that I look at it again. Yeah, no, Buffalo was sort of a front runner to try and pick up Hellebuck. It'd be interesting to see how much cap space does Edmonton have.
I don't think that much.
No, 4.3. As I say, it'd be interesting to see him if Edmonton could pick him up. Because, I mean, that's really what they needed.
Oh, they got 3 goalies they can trade back for them. It's a 3-for-1 deal.
Yeah.
Oh
3 for
man,
1
I
deal.
can't wait to have my. I told you I wanted to have my one friend who's an Edmonton fan on, and I just can't wait to have. Well, as we get closer to the season starting, we'll do a once around the league with all. We'll start with Canuck rivals, and then we'll go around the league just for catch everyone up to what's happening for what those rosters look like. But yeah, Edmonton.
Actually, they have 4. They got 4 goalies on. They got
on NHL
Jerry Tristan.
contracts?
They got Jerry Tristan, Frederick Anderson, Devon Levy, and Connor Ingram.
Oh my word, that's right, because they traded for Levi.
Yep. So that's what they have right now.
Thank you for watching
Skinner's
Canucks
UFA.
Only.
Like, I just don't even understand. Even if you wanted him in the room, out of the room, which I don't think he doesn't seem like a bad guy in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's so funny. Okay, the Hellebuck. Okay,
So trade all 4 for Hellebuck.
a 4-for-1 deal. It's amazing.
Actually,
Free
what's
from
the
cap
salary cap? The salary for all 4 of them, the salary cap $7 million.
Yeah.
So
Hey, real quick, you see the 2 New York Islander fans that snuck into the Carolina Stanley Cup party?
no.
So these guys have been going to the finals for the last 3 or 4 years. They were in Florida, and then in Vegas, and they're Islander fans.
Yeah.
And they hung around long enough, and they figured out the family. They figured out the people that could get on the ice for the cup celebration, like as the cup's on the ice still, as the fans fanned out, was a yellow wristband. And so he saw it. The one guy saw it, and so they had some yellow paper from the pregame celebrations, and he made a fake yellow wristband, and he got onto the ice. Him and his buddy, and they're in Islanders. They were in Islander hats, and they waited around long enough outside the dressing room so that as they're coming out in their street clothes, all the Carolina players, they just tagged along with the parade of players and just walked with them down the strip to wherever the party was. And then they started getting high-fived by all the fans, like as if they were cup winners as well. And they walked right into the party. And they partied all night with the Carolina Hurricanes.
And no one asked,
Nobody asked. They're drinking out of the cup. They're like getting selfies and high fives with the players.
That is amazing.
Unbelievable. This is a shout out to my buddy Scott. Scott, this made me think of you instantly. I'll tell you those stories offline, but Scott, it makes me appreciate. Just what a thing to be able to pull off. Wow, what a story! I bet
no
security will be tighter next year. Now it's gotten so public, but it is all over the news.
Wow, yeah, that is.
His quote to the local news reporter who interviewed them, he says, "I felt like I won the Stanley Cup."
Yeah.
Like, what a story. What an unbelievable, once in a lifetime. This won't happen again for 20 years because they'll have security so tight by that point and they'll forget about it in 20 years. So,
yeah.
I have 2 last things I want to ask you about. Okay. I mean, this is an obvious question, but Tom Dundon, the owner of the Carolina Hurricanes, putting his kids' names on the Stanley Cup and leaving off Carolina trainers that have been there since 1976. Thoughts on that? I can only imagine, but,
well, my understanding was that the trainer retired before, but anyway.
Oh, really?
No. Yeah. And let me double check that, but that was my understanding. Mid-season? Yeah. Mid-season, I believe.
Really?
Or yes, last season, maybe end of last season. Let me look at that. Anyway, and as for the kids, I find it interesting because I think it was it Edmonton? Trying to remember who it was that had put his dad. It was Edmonton, yeah. So Basil Pocklington, when they won the cup 83-84, put his dad's name on the cup and they X'd it out. So it's on the cup right now. There's X's over his name. And that was because he wasn't part of the team.
Yeah, totally.
And so now, I mean, to be honest, it's it goes through the Hockey Hall of Fame for approval.
No, apparently it does not.
No, that's what I was just at the Hockey Hall of Fame, and that's what I was told.
Really? Everything I read said that the Hockey Hall of Fame had nothing to do with it. They don't even ask for approval. So whoever the engraver is gets the list. And I'm not sure, because that's what they're really unsure about now, is what's the actual approval process. And they're saying, well, there's not much of one apparently.
Huh. Okay. Because I was just at the Hockey Hall of Fame and they said, yes, there's a formal vetting.
I mean, that makes sense. And I believe that. I believe that's what you're told. But when push came to shove with people asking the questions, they said, because they asked the cup, that Phil Pritchard guy who handles the cup, he says, yeah, no, we don't ever get asked or whatever. So anyways, I don't know. You're probably right. But obviously this slipped completely through the fingers of,
because I mean, there has to be vetting, because we know there is, because players have to play at least 41 regular season games or in the final, one game in the final, right?
Yeah.
You only can add 55 names. So someone is vetting these.
Yeah. Interesting.
Right? Because I mean, otherwise, how do they? How would you'd have players on there who you're like, well, that guy played four games and he won and his name's on the cup. Yeah. So, no, I think I'm guessing that it's been vetted.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing they're just being more lenient with, that might be something behind closed doors that we will never know, but that could be the owners all meeting up and getting together and the owners agreeing, you know what? When our team wins the Stanley Cup, I want to be able to put 5 people that I want on the Stanley Cup. And all the owners went, yeah, I think that's okay. And yeah, we all agree to that. Yeah. Make it happen, Bettman. Bettman goes, okay. You guys want to do that?
The owners, right? So
you guys want to do that? That's what we'll do.
Yeah.
And then just silently behind the scenes.
I get it. I mean, I totally get it. When I was working at the TV station, and we actually had, it was VTV at the time, and we had the Canucks rights, and I almost had the opportunity to redo the opening for the graphics. And I told buddies, I said, I'm going to put our names in there, because they can't, back in the blurry days of before high def, you couldn't read the damn names if it was that. But now you could read everything. You press pause and it's crystal clear, right? But yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But that's interesting. I didn't find all of that, but I found some of that information. But yeah. Hey, I have one last thing I want to ask you about or talked about. So this whole debacle of the USA-based super teams, Team USA, and this WhatsApp thread and the message threads group chat, with Brady going to Florida, Dylan Larkin wanting out. So now the concern is drafting USA players. And so I have a theory. So we only drafted one USA player, and at the moment that's probably very fashionable to we only got one USA player. Otherwise, it just becomes this really unnecessary talking point. We're obviously in Canada, USA players are trending towards wanting to go back to the States. Now, I have a theory. So, do you know the current lay of the land in, say, in Vegas as a tourist destination at the moment? That Vegas is kind of hurting because this generation of kids, and I don't even know the millennials to whatever, but this current crop of kids vacationing, and I'll say that from the ones that could actually legally drink, so we'll say 21 to say 35, demographically is completely the opposite of what Vegas wants. They don't drink, they don't gamble. They, in fact, they party. And so, they don't smoke. They don't smoke, they don't drink, and they don't gamble. But they do drugs in the room and whatever. They go down to the pool parties where there's, the loud DJs and thousands of people at the pool. But the reason that drinks at the pool cost $50 US or more is because the casinos are not making their money back based on drinking and gambling. Now, the legacy of the Keith Kachucks, the Bill Guerins, I would have said Brett Hull, but Brett Hull is Canadian but has dual citizenship. I'll say even the Darian Hatchers to maybe the Dougie Waite, that older tier of USA stars and superstars for them, Mike Modano. for going up against Canada for so long and continually lose, I can only imagine that the conversations in those circles, like, F those Canadians, will get them one day. Now, what's happened, in my opinion, is that Keith Tkachuk is part of that generation's like, F Canada, we'll finally get there one day. And you can hear it on Ryan Whitney on Spitting Chicklets about like, oh my God, like, we're so close, we have more money, and like, we're trying our best, and you guys keep winning still. But finally, they have their druthers. They win Olympic gold. They lost 4 nations, but they won Olympic gold. Now, my theory is, based on what's happening in Vegas, is that the kids there now are not doing that based on my dad smoked too much, died of lung cancer. My dad drank too, or my mom drank too much. She like the example of what they saw their parents go through makes the next generation do the opposite. That they're like, yeah, dad did that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to gamble. I don't want to smoke. I don't want to drink. My theory is that the Zeev Booyams in this age bracket, now that USA is starting to win and having ultimate success, Olympics, World Championships, Junior Championships, they win. My theory is that the sentiment is not carried over anymore. It's like, well, we won. There's no issue anymore. And so there's not this burning desire to stick it to Canada. And so now that they've seen Brady fully execute the let's call it, for lack of a better, Order 66 in Star Wars terms, where he pulled out and got to the team he wanted, like, oh, I didn't know I was going to Florida. Like, oh my gosh, just the bunch of BS that those two are saying, like, oh, I didn't even know. I don't know if you saw it, but Matthew goes, I had no idea you got traded to here. I don't even understand what happened. But I feel that the US players are like, well, I've seen that now, and like, oh, okay. And now they're getting painted in villains somewhat. And if they're in a Canadian market, the Americans that are younger now, they're going to say, like, they're going to see the bit of the backlash. They're like, oh, okay. And so I think there's a lesser chance that you're going to see this tidal wave of trying to get to the US. Now, it might have to do with some of the political climate in the world, but I don't think so, because at the end of the day, they just want to play hockey. Now, if the Canucks in 6 years, so say Booyam signs and he's here, and in 6 years, we're really good. Do you still want to leave? Like, Ottawa wasn't like really, really good, but they're pretty good, right? Yeah. This team. And so it wasn't like they were on the verge, right, of winning. I would even say Edmonton. It would be akin to Cole Caulfield say, you know what? I liked it here, but because Montreal, they did super well this year. It would be like Cole Caulfield saying, you know what? I want to go play in the States. Just because if you're on the cusp of winning and you've got a good group that you've grown up with, I think that's going to count for a lot. And I think that you're not going to see this Brady Tkachuk thing happen in 6 years. What do you think?
Yeah. I don't know. I think, I mean, those are all excellent points. Yeah. So there's definitely, hey, we've done it. There was that mentality of like, F Canada. I think, to be honest, I think the biggest influence on if you want to play in a Canadian market team or not is how you're paid. So, tax brackets, and are you being paid in Canadian or US dollars? 12 million, 12 million in Canadian, not the same as 12 million in US.
Yeah.
So
I think they're all getting paid US dollars now. I think that's been solved for a while.
So they're all getting paid. But the taxes also.
Yeah, I think the tax issue is a huge component for sure. I definitely agree with that.
Vegas has 0 income tax, right?
Yeah. Florida, Dallas,
0 income tax.
Yeah.
Vancouver, 45%.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Toronto, 45%. All the Canadian markets you're going to be paying, if you're getting 10 million, you're actually only seeing 6 of that, right? At the most.
Yeah.
Right. So, whereas if if you're getting 10 in Vegas, you're probably getting, 9. Like I don't know what their government tax is, but you're still making a heck of a lot more than you would be if you're playing in Vancouver. So there's got to be something more. If you're playing to win a cup, if you're playing for the money, there's a lot more teams in the States. And if you look at how many of them have been making it to the finals over the past 10 years, right?
Yeah.
There's not a lot of Canadian teams, and there's just not a lot of Canadian teams.
Right.
So I think it's not, as you said, I don't think it's about, FU Canada or, everyone just trying to, I think, they're looking at who's making it to the playoffs and how can I make the most out of my money.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if they turn it around in Toronto and they become a super team, they're going to be a destination, right? If they can fix it and Matthews signs on and they have a core and they have a 4-year window, which is going to be the new window, 4 years.
4-year window.
And like, okay, yeah, I'll go there. Yeah, let's go. I think
Edmonton's sort of the same thing. Like
it would be if they can figure it out.
I bet if they could figure it out, but I bet you Hellebuck, if they got some goaltending, if they picked up Hellebuck, do you think he probably wouldn't mind going to the States, but it would cost you, right?
Yeah.
If he was going to a U.S. team and he was going to make, $9 million, $10 million, you're probably going to have to pay him 12 to play in Canada.
Right. Yeah. Like Marner makes 12 in Vegas.
Yeah.
With an 18, Leo Carlson making 18 now, right? Like that's a massive discount, but without that taxes, that's closer to 16, right? So
exactly. Right. So yeah, I think you're right. I don't think it's so much about the rivalry anymore. I think, they're like, yeah, we did it and whatever, right? Moving on type thing. But I do think that the state of the dollar, and taxes, and practice facilities, there's a lot more. If you're a superstar, you can pick what you want to do, right? Like Matthews probably wants to play in Toronto, right?
We'll see.
McDavid wants to play. McDavid wants to play in Edmonton. Like he took a sweetheart deals there, right?
Yeah.
So like those guys can go anywhere, but it's all your supporting characters, all the guys that make your depth, and those guys are sitting there going, "Well, how am I gonna? I know I'm only going to be making $4 million a year, $4 million a season, $5 million a season, So if I do that with the Oilers, I'm actually only going to be taking home $2 million.
Yeah.
But if I go to Vegas and I play for Vegas, well, I'm going to take, closer to my full amount, and they got a good team, and it's a lot of fun down there, and I can hide in public because no one's going to recognize me, and I think that all those ands are what make going to a U.S. team a lot shinier.
Yep. Yeah. I think the USA super team will burn out once Florida gets through the next 2 years, I think, and then wherever Larkin ends up, I think it'll kind of end the conversation. I don't think there's enough gas in the tank to keep making it happen. And the usual suspects of Florida, Tampa, Dallas, and Vegas, the no tax states, will continue to have their advantage, and they'll have to work that out in the CBA or something. Like, okay, you guys.
But you also, if you look at those, like, you're right. Vegas is minus 8 million cap.
Right.
Tampa Bay's 3 million cap. Dallas they got 10 million, but they suck. They don't suck, but they don't have a lot. Utah is tax free, isn't it?
Not sure.
I don't know. Anyway, but so my point being, like, a lot of those destination places, that, they might not actually have the cap space. We know Vegas spends money.
Yeah.
Right. They spend money left, right, and center. But you can only do so much of that. right?
Hey, do you know who the most tax-friendly state in the U.S. is?
Florida is my guess.
Alaska.
Yeah. They need a team. Give them a team.
The no-tax states are Florida, Nevada, Tennessee. Nashville's a no-tax state? Really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Texas, Wyoming, and South Dakota.
Okay.
No sales tax in Delaware, Montana, New Hampshire, or Oregon. Anyways, I didn't know. I've never heard that. That's interesting. No income tax in Tennessee. So they must be talking about the sales tax is one thing.
Yeah.
But no income tax. Wow. Okay. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, as you're Googling something there, I got nothing else. This has been an hour and 40, which is
Sportsnet.
Oh, yeah.
650.
Didn't even talk about that one off the top. What's your thoughts?
Well, extremely sad. The fact it just makes people in the West hate the East even more.
Yep.
Because the fact that, Toronto turned around and said, yes, we're going to spend $4 billion buying the rights out to,
Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment.
Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. That's what we're going to do. Oh, but at the cost of everyone's south or west of Kitchener. You know what I mean? Like, it was, they wiped out, sports radio in Calgary.
Yep.
They wiped out sports radio in Vancouver.
And news radio. Yep.
And news radio. And so part of me is like a little pissed about that.
Yeah.
But there's an opportunity for, and if someone acts quickly and can get this done, there's an opportunity to get those guys, that talent on and create something.
Mm-hmm.
And because there's the market's wide open right now. So and if it's local, that's even going to be better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that would make something, like picture, remember old Czech, the Czech sports, like Czech, was it Czech?
Czech on the island. It was BCTV here for, yeah.
So, something local, something that people would be invested in. And I think right now with the whole FU to Rogers and everything that's like, back east.
Yeah.
I really think that, that if someone took advantage of that right now, there would be a massive amount of buy-in.
Like how many days later, 4 or 5 days later, I've heard some rumblings. I mean, being in and around that industry, I know I've had conversations with people, but there's room. There's room for someone to be completely independent. The anti-Toronto sentiment will be high. You'll get lower loyalty and viewership and earballs based on that alone. And there's actually room for one or two entities to do it, right? You get to pick and choose, right? So it's going to be the meritocracy of your favorite personalities and who's giving you the best content and the best value of entertainment based around sports and whatever they offer. So you're 100% right, and it's so super sad because you're friends with a couple of guys there at Sportsnet Radio. We had Bick on the show, and we feel bad for Bick and Sat and all those guys. Mm-hmm. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible, and it's and being in and around the TV industry and watching successive years of layoffs. It's like I'd gotten out of TV by then, and I was on to my next venture, but it was shocking. And my first thought was like, oh man, I missed my buyout because you just didn't see it coming. And then it was like 4 or 5, 6 years of layoffs, and then CTV was owned by Bell at the time, and then it's like, hey, Bell, let's talk day. And it's like so disingenuous, so incongruous with what is happening. But the worst thing that's ever happened to our media companies is being owned by the telcos. The telcos do not care. They do not understand. And all I have to say, and I've said online all week, is the only thing they really understand is you having your say with your wallet and taking your business elsewhere. And that's the only thing they understand.
I'm not getting the NHL app or Sportsnet app. I did bite the bullet and get it last year, and I've made a stand, and I found a cheaper alternative means of getting my NHL fix. So
I
I will
posted
be
that
doing
as well.
that.
You know, IPTV is out there, and that's what it's. There's alternatives. I still have cable because it's a much more reliable signal, but that's Shaw and Rogers, and sometimes you have no choice. But TELUS is the only choice past that, or unless you've got access to the third option in town sometimes. But yeah, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. You know, so. Yeah, our hearts go out to everyone that was affected, and lots of people lost their livelihood, and just a horrible position to be in. And so our hearts go out to you.
Yep.
And hope you land on your feet. And
extremely unfortunate, and it's a lot of people. I mean, Rogers dumped 200. I think it was 230 people.
It's so much more less appetizing because of they spent the $4 billion the literally the day before.
Yeah, exactly.
So, anyways. We've been chatting for an hour 43. My voice is now shot. That doesn't usually happen, but I'm trying to stay hydrated, but obviously not enough. Club soda, but or maybe that's bad for my throat. I have no idea, but I got nothing else. You got anything else you want to talk about?
No, I'm good. That's it for now.
Well, we'll call it wraps on this episode. Thanks for anyone that's listening to our show online and live. Don't forget, this will be posted to obviously all the podcast platforms, YouTube, and then I'll be clipping things and putting it on social. So make sure to comment and subscribe, and we appreciate everyone that listens to the show. So thank you for that.
And please, just keep the comments coming in. I don't personally take any offense or anything. And if you can add to the conversation, we love it. I'm always looking for, new ways to look at things and new things to learn. So feel free to school me.
And not me. I'm super closed-minded and don't want to be told anything. All right, Shylo, have yourself a good night. And we'll talk to you in the next one on Canucks Only. All right. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you for watching Canucks Only.
Canucks Only. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe.